I only asked for a small trim.
When you care about your customer, you respect their choices, especially...
Gdje si, Maco?
Ćao.
Pusti me da sednem. Jao, znaš kako je bilo super u intervjuu?
Pa normalno kad si ti moja lutkica.
Ja, kakav ti je tekst?
No, ne znam. Pusti se tekst. Nego, priči mi kako je bilo u tvoje.
Super. Pitali smo je za Armanija.
Čekaj. Da. O, Ročko, kako zadovoljstvo. Što zoveš? Zbog reklame za jogurt. Sačekaj samo sekund, molim te. Kad se utiši televizor, molim te, zovu me za ovu reklamu za jogurt. Došla maca na vratanci.
Ja sam da ti kažem.
Reci, Ročko, kako mogu ti pomoći? Šta? Naravno da možda koristiš moj kafić. Da, pa dobro, kad je frka. Razumem te. Nađa? Šta će ti Nađa? Ovo je moj mobilni telefon. Dobro. Nije mi ništa rekla. Evo ti. Za tebe.
Svini, Maco, stvarno nisam stigla da ti kažem juče su mi ja. Ćao, Rod.
tomb.
This Black Friday, meet Gravity's own small business security. Your hassle.
What seems certain is that he wanted to be buried here in the Valley of the Kings, last resting place of his ancestors from Egypt's new kingdom. There's only one way into the tomb, following the same route that Carter took through the piles of rubble a century ago, down a steep shaft that leads to the outer chamber, where I'm meeting Egyptologist Alia Ishmael. I think this is one of the most exciting places on earth. You've worked in here loads. Do you still get excited when you come down here?
I get excited every time I enter the tomb of Tutankhamun. This is something you never get bored of.
This room, there's none of the carvings or the painting that I've seen in other tombs. Why was it this plain?
We know from the nature of Tutankhamun's story that this was plain because this tomb was not finished. And the whole idea behind finished and not finished tombs is interesting because a tomb is actually never finished. But how elaborate it is because how long that pharaoh has survived and lived as pharaoh. The longer you live, the more impressive your tomb.
Because you just keep adding chambers.
Absolutely. Tutankhamun died at the age of 19. Barely ever being able to rule. 19, very young.
So I guess you'd expect to have a lot longer and be able to build a much more luxurious tomb.
Yes, if you lived longer, you have a greater tomb. When you're born, your tomb is starting to be prepared for you. So they knew that they were preparing for the afterlife. And so, depending on how long he would be alive, is how elaborate his tomb is. He died all of a sudden, and they pretty much had to finish it up quickly.
So that's why there's no painting on these walls. But the room was full.
The room was full of things, treasures, things that Carter actually describes as wonderful things. And
Wonderful
here,
things. This is the room we're in right now. Isn't that amazing?
yes, and this is how he saw it. And everything is thrown and cluttered and messy. So coming in here, you would think, I mean, did people just stash things? Did they not think about putting it in order? Carter was very happy that he found all this treasure. But at the moment when he saw it, he was frightened that this would be a cache and not actually a tomb because he wanted to find the tomb. He didn't want a cache.
So what's a cachet?
A royal cache is a place where priests would hide and stack away all the mummies, statues, treasures, everything. And they would only do that when they were scared that these would be harmed. And they would do it as a form of a safety.
By the candlelight, it would have just been flickering. It would have been just magical. When did he start to realise that maybe he did have a tomb on his hands?
Well, when you look here, you see these statues. And when he saw those statues flanking the easy side of the wall, he thought, no, I mean, these statues and their placement, there might be something beyond that wall.
So there was another moment of discovery in this story.
Absolutely.
Between the guardian statues in the chamber, Carter broke down the wall. Beyond it lay what he'd been hoping for all his life, a sealed and untouched burial chamber. Initially, there were great, huge golden shrines, big golden boxes, one inside another, like Russian dolls. He removed those all carefully, and he came to this red granite sarcophagus. He knew it was Tutankhamun's because there's the cartouche, Tutankhamun's royal name, and there's his birth name, Tutankhamun there, guarded by the goddesses. This was hopefully going to be the only intact royal burial ever found in the Valley of the Kings. No one had ever found anything like this in the Valley of Kings, or frankly anywhere else. Unlike the bare, unpainted antechamber, the burial chamber's walls are covered in colour. This burial chamber has some of the art that we usually associate with the burial chamber of pharaohs. We see Tutankhamun depicted all over the place. This is in fact his eye, his prime minister, and the man who very suspiciously succeeded him in power, although he didn't last very long. He's got the cheetah skin wrapped around him. He is giving life, giving new life to Tutankhamun here as a mummy. We come through here, we get Tutankhamun with his snake crown, being greeted by the goddess of the West, the goddess of the dead, basically. And here we have Tutankhamun with his car, which is a sort of spiritual body double. being greeted by Osiris, Lord of the Dead, into the afterlife. Back in Oxford at the Bodleians exhibition, the display shows how Carter's team continued to meticulously record what they found in the burial chamber. We also have an extraordinary range of photographs of the objects themselves and of the recovery taking place. They were taken by a fellow called Harry Burton, and here are prints themselves. You can see Anubis in the so-called treasury. Anubis is the jackal god with that linen shawls placed around him thousands of years ago. I love this one here, shows those two statues seemingly guarding the entrance to the burial chamber, maybe on that wall. You also get well posed, but you get some very interesting images of the team going about their work of excavation, breaking through a wall in this case, and lifting up while the shrine lives there. What's striking is that none of the pictures are any of the Egyptian workers named and credited with their roles. And that's particularly odd in this portrait of this young man here. Such a beautiful picture. He's been made to pose with one of the pendants found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. And it was only in much later life that a local man called Hussein Abdelrazul emerged and said that he was the boy who had a role in the excavation. The exhibition is based on the remarkably detailed collection kept in Oxford's Griffith Institute, which has all Carter's materials from the tomb: photographs, plans and notes. I'm having a special private view with curator Daniela Rosenberg. We're starting with something very precious, an original glass plate negative made in Tutankhamun's tomb by Harry Burton.
Hi. I was wondering if I could get a quick trim.
That's almost ghostly, isn't it?
This is a glass plate negative, and this is how Harry Burton took most of his images. So he would use that camera, put in the glass plate, and then take the shot, and then he developed all of them in a nearby tomb. It is estimated that altogether he developed around 3,000 of these images in his little dark room in the tomb nearby. Here we see the bottom part of the outer coffin, and then the middle coffin still covered, partly covered with the shrouds. And this is the moment he's exposing the face of the king and just in the process of removing the linen.
So perhaps because of the nature of it being physical, like a piece of glass, it feels to me like this sits alongside the actual artifacts that came out of Tutankhamun's tomb in terms of their importance historically. This is incredible.
Yeah, they really tried to capture, not only the artifacts themselves, of course, but also certain moments.
Burton and Carter knew that the pictures were a vital part of the archaeological record, as well as being a key research tool.
Harry actually produced 10 of these photo albums for Howard Carter, which he kind of worked with. And so on that page here,
that's incredible.
We see that fantastic image of what proved to be the outer coffin in the end, 1 out of 3, lying in the sarcophagus. The lid has been removed, finally really revealing what is inside there. And I really, really like this image where, Burton really tried to capture that moment, that intimate moment, to kind of evoke the stillness, the silence of the tomb. You have the light shining on the face of the king.
So, he didn't know at the time, but this is Tutankhamun's outer coffin.
Yes.
But what I love is the detail there, which I didn't know about. Is that a floral wreath around that?
It's a tiny little floral wreath, but we have a series of images that Burton took, because they were very thorough, both Carter and Harry Burton.
Look at that, look at the close-up. Love that. So that's around the serpent and basically the thing that denotes.
So the vulture is the goddess of Upper Egypt. She's called Nekhbet, and then the cobra is Wajid, the goddess of Lower Egypt.
Upper and Lower Egypt combined.
Yeah, and then wrapped around it is the tiny wreath It's actually only 9 centimeters in diameter. It's not very big.
And they turn to dust. They no longer exist.
Yeah, there are a few other floral garlands that were found that have survived, but this one unfortunately didn't.
We're so lucky, even though that hadn't survived, that they were able to take such extraordinary photographs.
Yes, they were absolutely meticulous in documenting everything as best as possible. And we don't only have the photographs, we also have a series of object cards that were made. And we even have that amazing sketch, so where Newberry, the botanist, tried to show how the individual leaves were bound together.
It's just a reminder of the exquisite attention detail that they put into everything.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it speaks volumes that altogether it took 10 years to record the tomb, which in theory only consisted of 4 rooms, but was packed with more than 5,000 objects. It was also a very, very good thing that Carter happened to be a trained artist, but also that he had Harry Burton as the photographer, who was arguably the finest archaeological photographer of his time.
The photographs also reveal incredible story, including some of the last-minute problems that were encountered in the tomb nearly 3,350 years ago when Tutankhamun was buried.
So one of the quite amazing things is you can see here, there's this kind of black edge, and that was actually where they had to chop off part of the feet.
Because it wasn't flush, it didn't close properly.
Yeah, they realized that the lid of the sarcophagus doesn't close, so they decided to chop out the upper part.
And when we say they, I keep thinking it's the 20th century Howard Carter. This is the ancient Egyptians. This is 3,000 years ago.
Exactly, you know, we can still learn something about the funerary by looking at the archival records.
But you can imagine the panic. They've gone through all the ritual, the lid goes on, and it doesn't quite close properly.
Yes, but I mean, I'm wondering if these things happen quite often, to be honest. And we can see they try to make good of it by pouring a lot of dark resin over it, which then trickles down the gilded coffin.
Everything else is so perfect, and then you've got this curious, sort of very all too human mistake in the feet.
Yes, but this is where you get the touch of the real.
Oh, yeah.
That's the amazing thing, including also the floral wreath, which I don't know might have been put down by a priest, but maybe also by his wife. I don't know.
Whether it's the chipping away of that or the placing of the floral wreath, it's things that connect you with not just a period of history, but with a precise second over millennia.
Yeah.
But this was just the outer coffin. Carter knew there must be other, even more spectacular layers inside, each of which had to be carefully recorded before opening the next. It was painstaking work, with the constant risk of damaging these priceless objects.
We know that Burton spent about 4 days to take images of everything, and then it was the moment where they decided to live with it. It was the 13th of October in 1925 that the big day had come.
And you've got Carter's notes for that moment.
Yes, and they're quite extensive.
And I don't mind his handwriting, actually. I've seen worse. The tackle being in position. By midday, the lid was very slowly raised. The coffin, it came up fairly readily, without mishap, revealing a second anthropoid coffin covered with a thin gossamer linen sheet, darkened and decayed, upon which were lying over the breast of the coffin floral garlands and a separate wreath of flowers.
Say hi to Lutz, giving your videos a professional aesthetic, easily. Color grade your project.
I mean, if I could be anywhere in the last 150 years, I would have been in the tomb at this moment. It is unbearably exciting.
And you would have been very privileged. It was only a very small group of people allowed inside. I have to say, personally, I find this image quite spooking when the middle coffin is still covered. I mean, it's not the image that people have in mind when they think of the sarcophagi, of course. In the museum, you see them as individual star pieces now.
Carter, the experienced Egyptologist, was stunned by the ancient floral tributes. No one had seen anything like this before.
He does explicitly said, among all the splendor, there's nothing so beautiful like these few withered leaves of flowers, yeah?
I must have seen these pictures, I do get that impression. What must have been so enticing is that you can see through the shroud, and there are tears and gaps in the shroud there, and he says, underneath the linen sheet or shroud in places, a glimpse can be obtained of elaborate, multicolored glass inlay upon fine gold work, and that's what you can see there. So
Yeah.
even at this stage, the next stage beckons.
Yeah, again, you have a coffin in the shape of a human. But quite astonishing on that sarcophagus is that it has all these inlays.
So this
that-
is a year afterwards when it's been removed from the other coffin.
Yeah, so that's one of the so-called studio photographs that Burton took after conservation had taken place. This time, the face, the ears, the beard, the hands were actually made of gold.
What?
Yeah, and then the eyebrows, the eyelids are inlaid blue-colored glass again.
And so these are the hieroglyphs that you can see on the surface.
That's some of them. So, you see these two columns with inscriptions, but on the side there were inscriptions as well. And so Carter made that little sketch of the shape of the coffin with the numbers that you can understand where part of the inscriptions were placed, and then he copied them.
The hieroglyphs all simply repeat familiar prayers associated with death and the afterlife. I get very frustrated that the hieroglyphs never say anything interesting historically.
I mean, we do know the man for the inscriptions, Alan Gardiner, was a bit frustrated
Oh, really?
that, what he hoped to find were boxes with papyri, of course,
Yes.
giving us some
Bit of
historical
biographical
information
detail, yeah.
about that, very dubious period, the Amarna period.
And are they getting more valuable as we go down through the layers?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But at this point, one of the mysteries was solved because everyone was wondering why the three coffins are so extremely heavy. And then it turned out because the inner one was made of pure gold, weighing more than 100 kilos.
In a coffin, let's go. So this is the last of 3 coffins, is it?
Yes, so that's the last of 3 coffins.
Wow.
And again, this is I think one of the most spookiest images I can think of. So the last coffin proved to be made of pure gold. Again, you have these floral colors, shrouds.
And so we're all so used to seeing those images of the coffins. They're some of the most reproduced images on Earth, but we don't see the condition in which they were actually found by Carter.
Yeah.
This is a completely different way of looking at it.
I mean, I think all of the 3 coffins, but in particular the inner one and also the mask, looks so different when you see these photographs that Burton took of the objects in situ with the linen shrouds and the floral colors. You see a lot of restoration work was still necessary, and I think that gives people a completely new idea. It shows people familiar things but in very unfamiliar ways.
Uh-oh.
So
Have we
that's the
opened?
mask.
Have we opened the last coffin?
That's it.
So this is the body of Tutankhamun with his death mask.
Yes, so that's the lid of the inner coffin taken off, and then finally we have a look at the king's mummified body, although not his face yet, because it's covered by this amazing mask. And it's so astonishing to look at these images, because I'm very sure most people, when they think of the mask, they have a picture in front of them where you see it as this iconic object, a portrait bust, more or less. But actually, it was an integral part of the body. It was placed over the king's head, covering part of his upper chest and back. And again, you have floral wreaths and collars, and it just gives you a completely different impression, doesn't it?
It really does. And as to see one of the most famous pieces of art ever created in the condition it was in just at that moment of rediscovery is just something else. And so this is the mask all cleaned up.
All cleaned up, and then Burton, he decided to photograph it on a kind of stand, and he took off the beard that you see the face more clearly. And then he did what was kind of standard practice in these days with shiny objects. You put on a very, very thin layer of paraffin wax to stop it from reflection. And so in that way you can see the really subtle modeling of the face. Carter, of course, produces a lot of record cards again, describing the mask, the pierced ears, again the vulture and the cobra, the color, the materials, the inlaid eyes, the pupils made of obsidian, the eyebrows, everything.
So we've learned everything we can learn from the outer coffins, from the mask. It now goes inside.
Now we are finally going inside, and starting on the 11th of November 1925. So we're talking about, this is already the 4th season. And then finally the big day has come, and a committee is gathered.
Yeah, the great and the good have arrived.
Of course, including Carter. Pierre Lacour was the head of the Antiquity Service. other Egyptian authority members.
And what's so fascinating is looking at the surroundings. They're in one of the Valley of the King's tombs.
Yeah.
So far it's been conjectural, meaning no one's ever... What does a pharaoh look like in a sarcophagus? No one's ever known. Okay.
Exactly. No, what would he look like? What would be on his body? And then over the course of 9 days, they discover more than 150 objects on the body. And then Carter produced probably some of my favorite archaeological records ever.
Beautiful.
A series of 18 so-called autopsy drawings. What you see here are 2 of them. And so already all along, while they are unwrapping, he is meticulously describing everything in his journal already during that moment, giving numbers to the individual objects. No? So everything on the body has the number 2, 5, 6. And then, he starts numbering them with A, B, C, D. Of course, he's quickly running out. He reaches that. So what you can see here, of course, we've already reached triple O and triple P
amazing.
Amulets. No? That vulture, and then here, the amazing scarab.
They are just beautiful drawings in their own right, let alone what they're actually portraying.
No, so with these drawings, he really tried to exactly capture the position of each object. So when another layer of bandages was removed and more objects were visible, he produced the next autopsy drawing. So it's basically now the images we're going more or less through the body, so to speak. You see,
He was covered in jewellery.
he was.
Goodness me. And there's the famous sandals.
Yes, the sandals.
All of that adornment, and you finally see just the old bones. That's all we are.
Yeah.
At the end of it. But it's so striking just that we've come through so much splendour and so much adornment, so much religion and mythology, and yet at the end of the day, there's just a little blackened skeleton right at the heart.
Yes, and it is a little 19-year-old man.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important not to forget it. We're talking about someone who died prematurely and unexpectedly. So you have his body, and then you have the mask, but then you have the 3 coffins, the sarcophagus, the 4 shrines, the burial chamber, the whole tomb, and then, of course, the Valley of the Kings, and all of that protecting Tutankhamun.
To mark the centenary of the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, Daniela has come up with a rather special project. She commissioned an Oxford florist, the garden, to recreate one of the smallest floral tributes discovered on the outer coffin, using the precise notes and photographs made by Carter's team. Florist Ellie Murphy has been working hard to recreate something that was originally made for Tutankhamun's tomb.
I like to do something a bit different, and I feel like this is like nobody ever gets asked to do this, so this is like a special thing. Like anybody will tell you, I like to do little fiddly things. This is basically right up my street. Kind of grabbed it with both hands when it came along. Even though times changed, we still use flowers to say different things, so I guess that hasn't changed.
Ellie is using the same types of flowers and arranging them exactly as recorded by Carter's team.
So we are using cornflowers, and these ones have been preserved, and they've actually kept their colour really nicely. And we're using olive leaves, alternately inside out and right side out, to give the green and grey as we go along. And we're using bindweed because we wanted to keep it as natural and as similar to the photo as possible. They've laid them out in the description, right way round and wrong way round, so that you get like a nice repetition of silver and green as you go along.
I'm joining Daniela and Professor Richard Parkinson to get a first glimpse of the recreation. Hi, Ellie.
See you again.
You've been making our amazing wreath.
Yes, let me get it for you. I think you're going to be pleased.
Were you pleased making it, or was it a labour of love?
No, it was a learning curve for sure, but we've got there.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's quite similar to the picture, I think.
It looks exact.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Nice deep blue of the cornflowers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the size and the proportions work
Yeah.
with the cornflowers. Yeah.
The opposites of all that gold and that hard metal is completely the other end of the spectrum, isn't it?
And placed on the coffin, you just have that wall of plain gold, and then this texture, the colour. And the colour of that blue is incredible. I mean, that really would catch the eye and stand out in the funeral ceremony.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and even the little detail that You know, the leaves are alternating with the green side and the silver side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what you made out of the images and the object cards and the drawings we gave you. And it's so moving to see it like in real life.
I'm very struck by how organic that feels next to the beautifully crafted gold. We think of the sophistication of the metallurgy and the material culture. This feels kind of childlike and like, you know, from a different period.
And it's a wall of plain gold, and then you just have this brilliant blue and the green of the olive leaves, some shiny, some white, against it. I think it humanises it.
It changes it completely, doesn't
Somebody
it?
must have put that on the coffin after it was loaded to the sarcophagus, after it was all sealed up. So that's the final act before they close the great stone lid. It looks beautiful.
Do you think it's the first time anyone's attempted to recapture that?
I think
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
And Ellie, just to be clear, how much of this did you have to sort of make up, and how much could you actually reconstruct from the diagrams and the photographs?
So the diagrams made it really easy because there was like a cross section. It's fiddly, but it's really simple once you read the instructions. It had all the measurements and what goes where.
So those diagrams were pretty accurate.
Spot on, yeah.
And it's funny because so much has changed in the religious devotion since the ancient Egyptians, but some things have stayed the same. You're still a florist, people still come in here and ask for garlands and wreaths.
Wreaths every single day, yeah, every morning we will send out tributes.
And that's why we really wanted to use this for commemorating the anniversary, to remind people it's not just a golden adventure, it's about the death of a young man. If he's the same age as the undergraduates at Oxford, so it's really trying to just bring back the humanity. It's such a pretty little wreath, it speaks volumes.
It was a pleasure to make it.
When you think about Tutankhamun, it's all too easy to think about him as the golden pharaoh. What I've learned today is that actually his death and burial was about flowers as much as it was precious metals. It's striking to think that humble but so significant floral wreath would once have lain with the magnificent objects that can now be seen in Cairo, looking, as we're so used to seeing them now, conserved, cleaned up, and on display. I'm taking a close look at these original treasures with Egyptian museum conservator Eid Murtar. So which of the coffins is this?
This one's the middle coffin, because before this one he discovered the wooden gilding coffin, which at the Grand Egyptian Museum at the moment. It's wood and the gold is fixed above it, and then they inlay with precious stones and blue glass.
Eid has been part of a team using modern techniques to find out how these objects were originally made.
When you look closely for the object, of course you have more information. And when you make examination or using non-destructive methods like microscopic picture or X-ray fluorescence techniques for analysis, you can discover a lot of things. Like, for example, the gold sheets they used to make this coffin, it's not only one gold sheet. There's different ones made from different alloys from gold. For example, we have gold with silver and with copper, but not the same amount, and that means it's different sheets.
100 years later, you're still learning things from this.
And I'm sure after 100 years more, the new generations will still discover new things. It's full of stories, full of mysteries, and we're still learning more about this object until the moment.
So here it is. I'm up close to the most famous archaeological treasure ever recovered, probably the most famous piece of art ever created. It's a golden death mask of Tutankhamun. It's sat right next to his mummy, underground, inside those coffins and sarcophagus for 3,000 years. And yet here it is, almost like it's new. When I'm this close, I realise it's not only a thing of extraordinary beauty, but it is such a powerful representation of the young man himself. You feel like you're in his presence. It's breathtaking. And so this was the final layer before the mummy.
Yes, inside the golden coffin, it was the golden mask of Tutankhamun.
And you've studied this more than anyone in the world. What can you tell me about this?
We can say the golden mask, it's made from several pieces, not from only one sheet of gold. And then they join these pieces together, even with soldering, as you can see with the face, because the face it was as a one part, or even with a small screw to fix the two layers together. We have here different kind of lays, we have precious stones, and we have blue glass on the beard, because the beard it's made from two layers, one like external tube, and it's inserted inside half a tube. It's made to be used as a tenon to hold the beard.
It looks very lifelike. This is how the pharaoh would have tried to present himself.
Yes, so they want to present themselves with the same shape of the mummy because they thought they will have a new life after that. So that's why they want the soul to identify his mummy or his body.
What is it like for you getting to work on this object every day? You're so lucky.
You know, it was my dream to be working in the Egyptian Museum when I was young. And because this object, and when I start my job here in 2011, I never thought I will be working with the golden mask of Tutankhamun. It was a wonderful feeling, and I think it's one of the main unique moments in my life.
It's been wonderful this year, exactly a century after the rediscovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, and nearly 3,350 years since he died, to reconnect with Tutankhamun and the incredible legacy that was left to us in the Valley of the Kings. A legacy reflected in the moments captured when the tomb was opened, revealing both its magnificent treasures, but also those intimate human objects, like the small wreath of flowers, all laid for the pharaoh, the young ruler who could have been lost forever.
Are you tired of payment providers always disappearing when you need them the most?
Egypt, a land of ancient treasures and hidden secrets. Of all its kings and queens, one is still cloaked in mystery: Cleopatra. Lover of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and at one time the most powerful woman in the world. But evidence of Egypt's last queen has all but vanished from history. Now, that's about to change. A maverick archaeologist has discovered a long-lost temple that played a crucial role,
Cleopatra, tell me what...
and even a vast city of the dead.
It's a wonderful necropolis. Look at that. They're fabulous.
Finds that are helping to transform our understanding of this enigmatic queen.
She was a mother, she was a wife, she was a queen, she was a goddess.
Even more exciting, she's discovered hidden subterranean chambers.
I can confirm to you something, that somebody is hiding something.
And in the biggest breakthrough in the search for Cleopatra, she may even have found the final resting place of Egypt's last queen.
It's a huge opening cut into the bedrock. When you do see them, they are the shafts that lead to tombs.
You are a goddess, Cleopatra. Everything is permitted to a goddess.
2,000 years after her death, the legendary Queen of Egypt still fascinates us.
Cleopatra is a pivotal figure in Egyptian history. She comes from a
sell like magic with Shopify's new AI tools.
The comments will tell you what that meant.
So you don't have... I
Gay
thought that you were
Azul?
going to...
Next time I'll do better.
Right.
Just started like partisan.
Yeah. Like what?
Right?
Like
8?
Yeah. Oh, you're calling this a failure? This beginning of the podcast.
I'm wondering if we're going to cut that part or not.
We'll see.
I think
For
we're
sure.
gonna keep to look us really bad. Do you have a better intro?
No.
Follow up?
We
already did the intro. Though.
We are sticking with it. We're going.
Keep rolling, man.
We're not firing the coach, early. We're just.
This is your bonus.
Unless is coming that door. Unless it's Rytis Vyšniauskas.
Exactly. Then I'm going.
But he's not coming. It's too early for him.
Rytis is not here because he is now an assistant coach for AS Monaco, aka the Rocket team.
Yes. In his own world.
Rytis
joined by two of the greatest colleagues that I had in this budget. He finally decides to leave Hapoel Tel Aviv. We have some
Žalgiris Baskonia
takes from Žalgiris Baskonia.
All right.
And maybe BN Plus. On basketball.com/plus,
Sure, become a member for a lot more additional content.
Exactly. And shout out to all the greats of our BN Plus members.
Haven't done that in a while.
Such as GMs Dave Gassman, Yanut Gergescu, and Kimon. And also we have a big group of all-stars. AB Aksa, Kostas B, Coach Cook, Nick Kohek, Vidmantas Nolida, Victory, Emilio 11, Jonas, Thomas Vanagas, Milda.
These are our employees. What the hell?
Yeah, these that proved to me that Željko Bradovic is a genius.
Oh.
I mean, this is not a hot take. He was a genius before, but he keeps surprising. Partizan won the game in the second and fourth quarters. They won those 2 quarters 50-24.
Wow.
And he changed the momentum of the game in the second quarter with a lineup that he used only once this season.
Against Paris.
4 guards, I would call. Ife Lundberg, Frank Ntilikina, Karlik Jones, Vanya Marinkovic. And then there was Brandon Davis or Tariq Jones.
In the second quarter, there was Balša Koprivica.
Oh yeah,
actually
giving. He was amazing.
Good minutes. Yeah.
First solid minutes in the EuroLeague this season. First game he scored
Only the
points.
third game he actually even appeared on the court.
Yeah, but he was always like on the bench but did not play. Anyways,
we'll get to these details later.
It's crazy because the average height of these 4 guys is only 1 meters 92 or 93, and we're talking about basically Luka Vildoza size. So we have 4 Vildozas on the court, and you're making such a crazy impact on both ends of the floor. How would you explain, what made this lineup with 4 of these guys, so bad, such a bad matchup for Olympiacos?
I think, first you look defensively, how these 4 guards are going to do defensively. And at that time, Olympiacos had let's say a 5-man lineup, which had Nigel Williams-Goss, Shaq McKissick, Kostas Papanikolaou, 3 guys that, one night they might hit their shots, one night they might miss them all. And we saw yesterday, like Nigel Williams-Goss missed like basically all the shots. And when you have at power forward position Peters or Kostas Papanikolaou there, they don't have a post-up threat, so you kind of are okay by playing 4 guards because they're not going to punish you at the 3rd position, at the 4th position by playing back to the basket. And
I mean, Peters isn't exactly a complete non-threat. He still can do a little bit of post-up.
He can do a little bit of that, yes, but they're not. Olympiacos system is not about looking for the power forward near the basket. Like, if he gets a switch, like if he gets a point guard, then he might go 1 or 2 times, but that's a rare thing in their system in general. And offensively, with those 4 guards, with Marinkovic stretching the floor, you have great looks because in the first quarter, when they didn't have that, they didn't have decisiveness in the pick and roll. And now you have Ntilikina, who seems to me is playing confident. You have Carlik Jones, who probably we'll talk more about later. He's having a fantastic run in the last 5 games, averaging 17 points. You get good looks offensively, and Koprivica was great. On the drop-off passes, he was dunking at the ball. He was getting some rebounds. And even though Olympiacos were getting offensive rebounds against the small lineup, they just couldn't make a shot. So you're kind of getting away with that, and that's why this small lineup worked in the second quarter and in the fourth quarter.
It's the only sale of the year, so hurry and go to artlist.io to get 10% off the Max plan. Save on every...
And I would just add about Koprivica that obviously his problem isn't on the offensive end. He's okay. Like he can be a lob threat, he can be a pick and roll guy you play with, a roll man, but on defense he's exposed because he's a bit too slow, a bit not coordinated enough, and obviously those 4 fouls in 10 minutes is something that took him out of the game, but still a great sort of X-factor spark off the bench that you don't expect from Željko. And we talk about Partizan, we have spoken about them, their front line being out-rebounded, lacking a little bit of size, because we know both Brandon Davies and Tyreek Jones, they're not the tallest centers. So sometimes, especially against guys like Milutinov, foul, you get situations where they get offensive rebounds. And this time around, with Koprivica there, it's just a nice little unexpected bonus you can have. And he had like 3 offensive rebounds. He had 5 total, but 3 of them were offensive rebounds. Another thing I was gonna add just before we even started talking about details, I just wanted to say what a statement win it was for Partizan. Last week we were talking about a statement win being against Zvezda, obviously derby, yeah. And now they win against Olympiacos, who had a 6-game winning streak, and they just came off a 6-game losing streak. Partizan did. So. What a big and unexpected swing, let's say, and also just shows how crazy this EuroLeague is. And I mean, we did those predictions that Paris won't make the playoffs, and that Partizan won't make the play-in. Now Partizan is like 2 games away from the play-in. Paris is second at the moment with 9-3. I think we need to ask our social media team to delete that post because it's aging horribly right now.
Paris will make the playoffs. Don't worry, my man.
Yeah.
Somebody said yes. But talking about Partizan, just I mentioned when they were 2-8 that this stretch of games against Zvezda and now 3 home games are crucial for them, and they are delivering. It seems like they're turning the page on their season. And let's see if this is not only like a 2-game stretch where they're playing great, but Vanja Marinkovic had some huge shots in the fourth quarter. But I mean, we still cannot talk about, I think, Carlik Jones and Brandon Davies. Carlik Jones was a menace throughout the whole game. He's averaging, here are some stats from him. First 7 games are averaging 10 points, 2 rebounds, almost 4 assists. Last 5 games, he is averaging 17, 5 and 5. I mean, crazy differences in averages. His shooting percentages still a little bit off, only 25% from deep. But he's getting to the line. He's averaging 5 free throws per game in the last 5. And just how he manipulated defenses against the drop of Milutinov and fall. Just getting his man on the back and then just driving in the paint, finding the right spaces, dropping off the passes. He was phenomenal, and then in the end, I think we saw prime Brandon Davies. I don't know how much more.
Ninja Brandon.
I don't know how much more games like this we're going to see from him, but what he did yesterday in the end was something phenomenal. A pick and pop 3, a fade away after a spin, and then
that's the jumper.
It was
on
just
the other end, on the drivers, they're missing open looks, and then on the other side you have Ninja Davis making these crazy shots, and there was this crazy celebration of Tyreek Jones, just like going at Davis. Just to add about Carlik Jones, I think in the last 4 or 5 games, he's having almost 30 points per game through scoring and assisting, and it's the top 4 record in the EuroLeague. But what impressed me the most, I would say, in the last game against Olympiacos was his defensive presence as well. In a lot of situations, I think that he made like 3 steals, one block at least. He was great showing effort in those switch situations when he was under the basket and let's say trying to get the ball from Mustafa Fall. I think that he made 1 steal. He later had another steal from Fall when Fall basically gone to sleep with the ball in his hands on the perimeter, and his handwork, the way he was active on the floor defensively was very important for Partizan. So I loved that part, and just some additional stats that I had. I mentioned those second and fourth quarters. There were 3 guys who played entire second and fourth quarters without a substitution. And it was Craig Jones, Ethan Lundberg, and Vanja Marinkovic. Of course, they were plus 26 in that span of 20 minutes. And by the way, in that span, they gave away 13 offensive rebounds to Olympiacos, but they still managed to win 20-minute stretch by 26 points. That's crazy.
Olympiacos did not score.
Yeah, they forced 8 turnovers, shot the ball from the field by 62%, had 10 assists, and only 1 turnover. And what stuck to my mind is that from 24 Olympiacos points, only 6 came from a guard, and it was the sole player, Evan Fournier. McKissick, Dorsey, Vildoza, Walkup, Goss were 0 from 14 from the field. And what also looked strange to me from Olympiacos' side is that although they played this lineup with, in the fourth quarter they had Tariq Jones and Brandon Davis a little bit, a couple of minutes, but they still played a lot of these 4 guards on their lineup. And Nikola Milutinov in the fourth quarter, he had only 1 field goal attempt. And I don't know if, Partizan, they were very active defensively, trying to protect the paint and tried to not to let him get any balls inside. But at the same time, I think Olympiacos did a bad job trying to get the ball inside the paint. That's also what hurt their offense a lot in that game.
Absolutely. I think Milutinov lacked touches in the end, and I saw the same thing like a little bit in El Clasico against switching, but Partizan basically forced shots from the guys they wanted to shoot. Like Walkup was shooting in the end, Papa Nicolau was shooting in the end, Williams Goss was shooting in the second half when he did not have his night. He simply was not making shots. And Milutinov down there just didn't get a single touch, and in that run, especially in the fourth quarter after that unsportsmanlike foul. And I thought that was a big mistake. And 2 more moments I want to talk to you guys about from this game. First is it was like 1 minute and down 6, 1 minute and 50 remaining, and Fournier just dribbled the ball, and he has Tariq Jones like transition cross match. He's like, get out of my way, I'll play 1-on-1. I have this big guy on me. I will do something. And he shoots a free, complete random. You don't see that often from Olympiacos.
Like 7 seconds into the possession, I think.
Yeah, not much. He just pulled up, and the camera goes to the other side, and Bartzokas, after like 10 seconds, and they're already playing defense, Bartzokas is standing like this, not moving for 15 seconds. He's looking to Fournier and like, bro, we don't do that in Olympiacos. What is this shot? And then after that, after 15 seconds like this, he's like turning around to the sideline. He's like,
this Thursday, the 5th of December, you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to...
like he did, I don't know, 20-second reaction to this one shot, and it spoke to me louder than any words, like this reaction from Bartzokas.
On the other hand, Fournier has earned himself these kind of shots in the stretch he had in the last, I don't know, maybe 5-6 games already.
I see your point, yeah.
You know, he's decided some games with some shots that were random, you know.
So that night it was not his night. I mean, he missed 2 consecutive free throws at some important point.
Yes, in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And the second one?
And the second one, the unsportsmanlike foul for Papa Nicolau. That was surprising to me. If any of you did not saw the game, basically Curlig Jones, after the rebound, I think he was going in the transition. He's still in his own half court, and he just goes behind the back, and Papanikolaou, does not react to that move because it was such a nice move, and he leaves his hand just a little bit and touches Curlig Jones a little bit, just stopping him for a slight second, but Jones was still going in the fast break. The referees call a simple foul, and they go to the review, and I think the one referee says that, to me, that's a normal foul. There's no excessive contact. He's just leaving his hand because, Curlig Jones made this nice move. And then the other referee comes in and says, to me, that's intentional play to stop the fast break. Transition opportunity, I think it's an unsportsmanlike foul. And the other ref, who did not think it's an unsportsmanlike, he's like, yeah, okay, let's go with unsportsmanlike. And I'm like, oh, wow, really? That simple? When
overturning the call, which is actually, it has to be super justified, if you want to overturn the call. You have to have strong arguments, not like, oh, I think this way, I think that way.
That second referee had strong arguments. He gave 3 arguments of why it should be the unsportsmanlike foul, but the contact itself was just such a soft one. It did not really impact Curlig Jones that much, and it was a turning point in the game because Partizan were down by 7, and they got 4 points in single possession, 2 free throws, and I think Curlig Jones made a layup after that. And I was really surprised that it was a foul, and Papanikolaou as well was trying to understand, how this little contact can be an unsportsmanlike.
I'll just one more side topic. I know we're gonna get probably to Bartzoka's post-game actions in a second, but before that, I feel like everyone want to talk about Milutinov and his offensive rebounding, but there was another guy who had identical rebounding numbers on the Olympiacos roster, and that was Alec Peters. He had 3 offensive rebounds, 5 defensive rebounds, and just showed me these last few games when Vezenkov's been absent, that last year's Alec Peters, where he is giving 60 to 70% of what Vezenkov can. He had a great game, by the way, his stats wise, 20 PIR, I don't remember how many points he scored. But
12 and 8 rebounds.
Feels like you had him on your fantasy.
Pitam te, brate, taske si dao.
Jesam, ali aj malo kasnije. Hoćete i vi posle budete? Aj taske kasnije, za jedno, šta ja znam, sat i po.
Mi smo jeli kad si ti spavao tačno.
Gde sam?
Brate, ja sam danas spavao do pola 5. Jebem ti su.
Kad si legao?
Oko pola 8.
Uzmi me pole.
Šta nam?
Uzmio sam. Verujem, evo gledaj. Ušić.
Bola se sunce bio, šta je bilo? Ti vas ustavaju? Ja ti pisao mislim da mi se sveću. Ja ću mi da pisao. Gde li mi čuo?
Pika.
Ja bih čuo to Marjanović dobio otkaz fenomen, ne znam da li zvanično dobio.
To se priča već.
Ja na taj način dobiti, brate, kad dođe do centra.
A daj, ne treba.
Ja se smiješam pušu.
Što će dobiti otkaz, zato što je
Trik, sajte. Fađi.
Gde si breškice?
Što je loše, brate.
Ko? Pa, brate, nekako nije imao šansu.
Pa da, ali mislim, pregazio.
Naprimer, kad je došao ono krenuo dobro, ima neke dobre partije.
Krenuo, ali brate, u odbrani ne može.
Mislim, nisam ga gledao, ali da.
Mislim...
da se snima Zvezda ne bude pojela. Brate, mislim da je Bobby završio.
Uzeo para
i para, brate, dobio je penziju iz NBA-a i čisto sumnjam da će se on vraćati, jedino ako se baš igra košarku. Da će doći u neku igru Kevin možda.
Da bi igra nego Beogradu.
Ne, dao sam primjer u neku slabiju ekipu, u smislu otišao u Fener jer, brate, Istanbul, lep grad, okej, platica, brate, što da ne.
Zašto da ne?
Pošto smatra Trenog Gancija bogata večeras, brate, nadam se da da. Ali ne, postao sam, brate, osjećaj,
ali kući.
Favoriti smo pogledali u Aniciju.
Ja mislim da Zvezda dobije sigurno.
Pa, ali, brate, moram s njemu. Treba sam se svagati sa svima, brate. Malo sam besan za upravu, brate, za Motlija i sad mi još pišu ljudi da je Motli bio dogovoren, samo da je, brate, da nije uspio da izađe iz ugovora i da zato nije došao. Brate, jebem ti upravu usta, onda, ako ti sve karte položiš na jednog igrača, brate. Okej, bio je dogovoren i zalovilo se. Mora imati, brate, plan B, brate. Ne igraš više, brate, u Subotičku ligu, brate, drugi okrug. Igraš najbolju ligu na svetu. To je isto Kanta, jebem ti jedan ligu. Samo sam rekao.
Ne, pa mislim, Zvezda šta god izgubi, nije to nemoguće. Samo mislim da će da pobedi.
Da ne igra Petrušak protiv Olimpijaka. Mislim, ko da je bitno. Znači, ajde, možda, ostane da neće. Ali Kavar isto.
Kavar nešto tanak uzadnje.
Da, mislim da će na provodi protiv Zvezda.
A ne, neki.
Protiv Bajerna, ne?
Protiv Bajerna. Ja, dobro.
Tamo Edvard Zid.
Kodi ne igra večeras?
Odakle ti to, brate? Tamo malo da pojem.
A čekaj, ovaj Baka je sad u Realu, nije više. A koji sad ima?
Obst, Edvard Zid.
Nešto, da, Obst, koliko više ti
Buker, brate. Meni je Buker najbolji igrač nam. Dobro, uz Edward Said. Buker je, brate, svaku je odigrao.
Cijelo telo crveni.
Jer samo imaju njega, brate.
Samo Milo Belani.
Samo imaju njega kao centar, koji je onaj Branković.
Branković. Boško, nema netko da te čuje. Vole tako kad lipi neku glupost.
Šta, nije loše Buker, evo?
Nije loša, nije najbolje.
On i Edward te drže celu sezonu drže Buras. Evo, pogledaj samo strelice Buras, samo pogledaj strelice.
Je to nedeljni Buker iz Phoenix Sunsa.
Bravo, retarde.
To čak i ja znam.
Ne, dobar je Buker. A mislim da je Edward Subeljiva najbolje.
A ovo kažem uz Edward sam rekao...
Držao.
Ne radi. Trebaš da igraš da pitaš šta možeš s tebom.
Kako smo pričali danas, brate?
Popiši sebe u 3 reči. Šuter. Šuter! Kjak vrem, ta priča.
Pozdrav za Dijana Matića.
Da. Janović ne igra, Dora ne igra niko. Zvezda predaju utakmicu jer nema 6 igrača. Ne sebe, nego ovog drugog. Ne menja priču, brate.
Ne menja šuter, Buras.
Kako drug bol. Daj se još.
Vidi.
Još X. Još
Jebot.
Ajde još X.
Crveno.
Još X sa plavo, crveno. Bravo, još X.
Jebot.
Ja bih se kažem na Twitteru.
Šta kažu na Twitteru, bro? Ništa.
Ja se tamo svađam.
Svađam se s ciganima, bro.
Dokle došla se ja svađam ciganima.
Da, ti mi se sad i kažem, mutiraš.
Ništa nema to nema. Mislim da ne bih.
Pa ne znam, ovo mi tako reći. Kao, trebali ste. Rekao sad kažem.
Ja, Fred, zato koliko 4 zvezda protiv što je. Nisam, ja
samo
prespavao.
protiv Benfike.
Ja prespavao. 4 pobila zvezde, eto samo dokaz, brate, da kaldionice, brate, pocenjuju. Kaldionice. Pa dajde, što gledate u teoriji jači, brate, Benfike. Ali opet.
Reprezentaciju po Monaco sada 15 dana.
I was wondering if I could get a quick trim.
Coast of Costa Rica lies a deserted island called Cocos.
Cocos is hidden away, and for that reason it was more a myth. Some weren't sure that it existed.
In the 18th and early 19th century, ruthless pirates paid regular visits to Cocos.
There are so many accounts of how pirates buried treasures on this island.
Some say that millions of dollars of gold and precious stones still lie hidden under its coconut trees, rocks, and caves.
If someone was talking about Treasure Island on those days, always was Cocos.
Over the years,